Just before we start the show, I want to tell you about RecFest USA, an extraordinary event happening in Nashville on the 13th and 14th of September. Part festival, part conference, RecFest is a unique experience, long established in the UK. I've attended most of them, and I highly recommend you experience the incredible combination of content, networking, and celebration of all that's good in talent acquisition. RecFest is coming to America, and I've got a mega discount code for you. Go to recfest.com/USA and use the code RF50 to get 50% off your tickets. That's recfest.com/USA and the discount code is RF50.
There's been more of scientific discovery, more of technical advancement and material progress in your lifetime and mine than in all the ages of history.
Hi there, this is Matt Alder. Welcome to episode 537 of the Recruiting Future podcast. One of the key themes emerging over the last few years is the need for employers to think about talent holistically. To achieve this, progressive organisations are already breaking down the barriers between talent acquisition, talent management, and L&D. The central tenet is strategic workforce planning. So, what does effective SWP look like? How is AI changing thought processes? And what role does talent acquisition need to play? My guest this week is Sadhana Bhide, strategic workforce planning subject matter expert at Faethm by Pearson. Sadhana has expert insights to share on the current state and future development of SWP. And this conversation is a must listen for TA leaders everywhere. Hi Sadhana, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi Matt, it's great to be here.
An absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Please could you introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do?
Certainly, thank you Matt. My name is Sadhana Bhide. I am currently the strategic workforce planning subject matter expert at Faethm by Pearson. My role really is to work with clients and broader groups of people on their strategic workforce planning or SWP strategy.
Fantastic stuff. Now, strategic workforce planning has come up a lot in conversations on the podcast, come up a lot in conversations about talent acquisition. And I really wanted to talk to someone who was a specialist and an expert in this to really give everyone a sense of the details and why it's so important. So talk us through, what is strategic workforce planning and why is it so important in 2023?
Absolutely. Fundamentally, strategic workforce planning is a set of activities that involve looking at an organization's workforce today and looking at the impact of external factors around technology, as much planning as possible for unplanned, unforeseen world events, and also looking at how work will change and thinking about the workforce of the future that will be required to carry out that work in the future as well. We're dealing with a huge period of change when we think about the world of work. We've got complex forces such as artificial intelligence, external events as we're coming out of the COVID pandemic, impacting on how work is carried out, when and where, through big changes such as moving to remote working, hybrid working, and also how are employees engaging and reacting with the world of work. So we often see trends on social media such as minimum Mondays, quiet quitting, people making big lifestyle changes as well. So for organizations, they all see and appreciate the need to act, but their starting point has to be understanding where they are today, and from that being able to chart an effective path to the future of work.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a very dynamic, disruptive time. There's so much going on at the moment. Talk us through the unique advantages that a clear, effective strategic workforce plan can bring to an organization.
Absolutely. I think by having an SWP plan in place, it allows organizations to plan for the longer term future. We know we can't plan for everything because we don't know what's coming down the line. But what we can do is build a foundation of readiness. So that enables organizations to be able to react and respond quickly to events as and when they arise. From an employee's perspective, by thinking about SWP and having a plan in place, it gives an employee the means and opportunities and support, learning and training to remain relevant for the future of work. That could be through upskilling and reskilling programs, but it keeps the employee relevant to the future of work, engaged and positive about the work they do and the organisation that they're affiliated to. From an organisation perspective, having an engaged workforce is absolutely key to success and productivity as well. Obviously, you have then cost advantages by looking at that workforce and looking at how it can be recycled, reinvented, repurposed, reused for that work of the future.
So many people listening will have some familiarity with SWP, but there are kind of 6 Bs that sort of underpin all of it. Could you walk us through those 6 Bs that help inform SWP?
Yes, absolutely. The 6 Bs is a phrase that's used quite often when we think about SWP, and it refers to a set of HR-related, output-focused actions that come from building a strategic workforce plan. I'll run through what those 6 Bs are. We start off with BOT, and that refers to looking at the impact of technology on roles. Build is where the analysis of an organization's workforce is completed to identify where you have a surplus or a deficit, and from that, what decisions can be taken. So with a surplus, would we look at redeployment, for example? If there's a deficit, is there a need to reskill or upskill different pockets of the organization to cover that gap? Borrow refers to where we're looking at short-term coverage for skills gaps, and it means a look across the organisation to look at where there are comparable or the same skills and where those roles could be moved to do that short-term cover. Buy, as we would expect it to be, is buying in external resource. They're normally ready to go with the relevant skills, knowledge and experience that are needed to come in and start actively doing the work that's required. Bounce is where we refer to removing employees from the organisation and or the role. That could be either because performance is not where it needs to be, or there are bigger organisational decisions related to redundancy. In both cases, the question should be asked to say, is this an opportunity to look at where the individual or the division can go through reskilling or upskilling to move over into work that's required today and will be relevant for the future as well. And as we're going through this huge period of change within an organisation, bind is the last of the 6 Bs, and that refers to where we look at employees who are in what the organisation classes as a critical role, and we look at how we can incentivise and motivate them to remain loyal and connected and focused to the organisation. I'd also say there's a 7th B, which is balance. What I mean by that is when we look across the 6 Bs, it's important for every organisation to make sure that they are taking a considered and balanced view to those actions and outcomes and not leaning too heavily towards one or the other. So, for example, if they know there's a gap in skills or workforce that's needed, not to jump to buy straight away as a solution, rather than looking at build or borrow. And on the other side, if there's a surplus, not jumping straight to bounce as the option, but again, looking at build or borrow as the outcome as well.
A quick message from our sponsor, Winolo. Hi everyone, I want to tell you about Winolo. That's Winolo. Winolo stands for Work Now Locally. Winolo enables businesses to find quality workers for on-demand, seasonal, short-term and long-term work. Ditch the bulky paperwork and interview process and use Winolo to find quality workers fast and get work done even faster. With flexible workers and no platform fees, you can save on operating costs, meet demand and maximise earnings with ease. Winolo is available in over 100 markets, including Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta, New York and Seattle. Get workers who are ready to work and spend less time finding them with Winolo. Go to www.winolo.com/pod. That's www.wonolo.com/pod and take the stress out of finding workers. Lots of people listening to the podcast are talent acquisition professionals. What role should the talent acquisition function be playing in SWP?
When I think about the most successful talent acquisition divisions that I've seen in my career, they all focus on a number of key areas, which are around driving the attraction, retention, and performance of critical talent. So all of those areas slot very nicely into a broader strategic workforce plan. In my view, the talent acquisition team should be front and center when it comes to starting the SWP journey of an organization, the knowledge, insights, and inputs they can share around the workforce, and looking at how to manage that workforce for the longer term to meet the challenges of the future of work is absolutely key.
So talk us through the most common roadblocks and the challenges that are getting in the way of building and implementing a successful SWP.
There are a number of challenges, and I would start off by saying that when the leadership of an organization recognizes and knows that they need to act on future-proofing their workforce, step one is getting the right data and insights they need to make informed decisions. Step two is then also appreciating and understanding that this is a long-term journey. They need to be looking at a 3 to 5 year horizon at least, and knowing that it will take that long to identify, implement, and benefit from the changes that they're making. And lastly, to know that looking at SWP is a continuous and iterative process. There needs to be regular check-ins, reviews, refreshers, reflex, whatever you want to call it, of that broader plan to make sure that it remains current and aligned to the future of work strategy.
So when it comes to measuring all of this, what are some of the best practices that are used to measure the effectiveness of SWP and also ensure the process continues to set the organisation up for success in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Measurement is absolutely key to success of any SWP plan. How do you know what you're doing has the right impact? I get this question a lot, and what I would say is there is no one fixed set of KPIs that works across every organization, every geography, every industry. Step one is understanding what's important to your organization and viewed as key to success. Now, it may be common across many organizations, and we have identified a set of recommended KPIs. We can sort of bucket them into different areas and look at the impact on roles from the SWP plan. We can look at what it means from a business productivity perspective. And I think also we look at actions and outcomes related to the 6 Bs that I've just been through as well.
So final question, very dynamic time of much change. What do you think the future looks like for HR? What role should it play? And how do you think technology is going to shape things moving forward?
I think HR has a critical role to play in the success of any organization. The impact of technology is happening at such a pace and with such dramatic changes that HR needs to be looking ahead continuously and thinking about what that workforce of the future looks like. One of the key areas that can really support the organization is looking at mindset and culture. How can HR work with the employees in the organization to build that learning mindset and a culture of change readiness as well, so that individuals in that organization are ready to adapt and change as work changes, not just where that work is carried out, but how it's carried out and what the impact of technology is on individual roles. I would also say focusing on diversity, equality, and inclusion is key to the success of any organization as well. And that's why HR also has a massive part to play. It's looking at how that organization can build a DE&I related mindset when it focuses on the employees in that organization, how work is carried out, and also ensuring that the impact of technology does not have adverse impact on specific groups of individuals. Fundamentally, having that HR voice at the table means that organizations can be aware of their workforce, what the needs are today, what we're looking for tomorrow, and what is the journey to achieve that workforce of the future.
Sadhana, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you, Matt. It was a pleasure.
My thanks to Sadhana. You can subscribe to this podcast in Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or via your podcasting app of choice. Please also follow the show on Instagram. You can find us by searching for Recruiting Future. You can search all the past episodes at recruitingfuture.com. On that site, you can also subscribe to our monthly newsletter, Recruiting Future Feast, and get the inside track about everything that's coming up on the show. Thanks very much for listening. I'll be back next time, and I hope you'll join me.
This is my show.
Attracting, recruiting, and retaining great talent has never been harder. But why? We know we need them, and they need us. So why are we making it harder? Pull up a chair, listen, and laugh along with Lynn Bailey and Tracy Parsons as they dissect the industry, solve problems, and scoff at and sass the status quo. Join the rebellion with the Talent Rebel Cast and question everything you know about the world of work.